How's it going? It's the Slayer here, bringing you another interesting video. Today we are playing the Challenge Tower in Mortal Kombat Trilogy. Oh my god, it's like, took me ages to finish this due to its crazy AI. I just finished UMK3 in the arcade yet again a couple of days ago on a retro arcade machine, and I've played MK3. But let me tell you, Mortal Kombat Trilogy's AI is much harder. And when I was discussing it online with people who hadn't played it for a while, some kind of understood it, but some weren't sure. Everybody, years after they've played this game, thinks that this is just another reskin of MK3. But let me tell you, it's different ports had different features. Now here, before we go any further, I'm talking about the PC version of Trilogy, the one I purchased from GOG.com, and it is pretty tough in that. So I documented this entire run through the champion tower at one of the either medium or hard difficulty, but even medium in this game is equal to hard or very hard in MK3 or UMK3. So I think that's enough, because beyond a point, I couldn't be sitting on this one the whole day. But right now we just saw Sub Zero beat Scorpion. But what I've done is, instead of the full, it took me around 1.5 hours to finish this champion's tower, because I was also using characters like Sub Zero, whom I don't use that often, and I wanted to experiment. But I've narrowed this video down to 23 minutes to mostly include my successful attempts and just a couple of the matches I lost, to show you how insane the AI is in this one compared to other versions of MK3, though that should be pretty obvious from the see. And one thing we note here, you notice that initially it struggled a bit with the keyboard input recognition, because this game is better suited to controllers, and although keyboards are convenient to use for people like me. But what I used to find that in the old days when my brother and I would play MK1 and 2, sometimes at the higher difficulties, or if somebody held down their controls, the other person didn't move as well. Now here I just showed you one of the fights I lost to Sub-Zero, but here there was a bit of input recognition issue at the higher difficulty, and you noticed even the AI at times was teabagging me instead of doing the diagonal input it wanted to. So sometimes that happened, but as we progressed through the tower, it got better, and it wasn't that much of an issue at lower difficulties. But it was funny that when the AI was moving at pace, even if you were further away, the diagonal inputs took a bit longer. And in the last match, now eventually I'm using the Unmasked Sub Zero, and I'm going to beat this Sub Zero who just beat me in the prior match that you saw. It wasn't just me, but even at some stages, the AI itself was struggling to do its diagonal inputs, as you saw that it was teabagging. And this was something weird. Right now, we just, like, after I froze him, you saw me miss the combo, which is pretty weird. Like, I just comboed him right now. I'm surprised why the last one missed, but this just happened initially, then it got better. So I think that in these older games at the harder towers or harder difficulties, I guess that they programmed them the best they could for the technology of the time. On the console, if you're used to playing console, that's probably flawless, but on the PC, particularly if you're using the keyboard, or even if you had a controller, sometimes the things can get some minor things, like not being able to connect to a combo or a special move taking a bit longer at the higher difficulty. And sometimes even the AI, you can note these games were originally designed for the arcade, so they were meant to make you play more. So you can see that as in some of the fights I've shown here, and particularly some of the lost ones that I didn't, that you could notice that the AI's input recognition was okay. Here I managed to beat the guy, thank god. It took a few attempts. So you notice the AI's input recognition, as it had started countering your move just as you started it, even before you finished. So that was the old AIs. Like the new games like MK11 and MK1 from 2023 are pretty tough as well, but I guess that given they're meant for the competitive, here you saw she was teabagging again. She probably wanted to do something else. But yeah, so in the older in the newer MKs, which are meant for the competitive scenario, while they're tough, I guess that with the frame data published and whatnot, there is like kind of a balance. And there you saw I almost missed the combo again, but yeah, possibly is that linked to my keyboard or my Acer Predator. But yeah, it's funny how the AI was also teabagging over there, that I think yeah, and there she won. But yeah, so the newer games, while they're the more refined for the competitive scenario, while they're tougher, there is a logic to them. As they get tougher, there is a certain window when you can attack, or certain frame rate you can't. And unless you've got issues in your setup in terms of the whether your system can take the graphics or your controller, you should more or less be able to scale up your technique. But these older MKs, while they were fun, at times, oh wow, you saw how she beat me there. I cut out just before she did the brutality or babality, so I'm not showing any fatalities or brutalities here. And here I managed to beat her in my other attempt. But you just saw that the way she did the combo, that in MK3 and Ultimate MK3 Arcade, while the AI moves faster as you progress up the difficulty level and probably blocks a bit quicker or occasionally does things it shouldn't, but it doesn't combo as aggressively as it does here in MK Trilogy. So here, if you miss your combo or you get one input right, in Trilogy the AI is going to come in and do a big kick-ass combo on you that's going to take out a big chunk of your health. So that's one of the main differences between Trilogy and that. And here, it's Jax 1. I thought I was about to beat him up. But yeah, but in these older games, I guess sometimes you just had to repeat matches, that you do a few matches and you think your input was right, but you'd suddenly the AI would be crazy, you'd lose. But on your second or third attempt, the AI would be much easier and you'd be able to beat it. Or perhaps you needed some timing, like for some of this, like in Jax here, this Jax fight I repeated because it took me time to figure out that I hadn't played the MK2 Jax before, so it took me time to figure out that when I get the window to freeze him and then do the combo. And then I guess that, yeah, my keyboard initially struggled a bit, partly also because I've been shuttling between different versions of MK3, UMK3 in the arcade, trying the fight stick, in between also tested the fight stick in Tekken, and oh, this was insane. You saw that AI is using rain and it's got an absolutely insane combo. It didn't even let me block or camp. And then, yeah, I had to redo this fight a few times, but then I did it. But I guess that even in these games, it's not all random. Like Trilogy, I'm not sure it came out in the arcade because it was maybe a home port. They were a bit liberal with its AI because the UMK3 arcade, although it was tough, I don't think they would have released this Trilogy arcade over there because that would have been a bit too tough. Because you do want players to feel a challenge. You do want players to repeat fights and get, spend more money in the arcade, but you wouldn't want it as insane as Trilogy because, even on a keyboard or controller, Trilogy takes some effort. So with the arcade sticks, like I've done a separate video about what is better, controllers, keyboard, or arcade sticks for MK. So we know that competitively, controllers are the best. When I tried them, they were certainly faster, though I'm used to the keyboard, so I use the keyboard more. But the keyboard has some input recognition issues at higher difficulty levels. But for the new ones, MK11 and MK1, a gaming keyboard could still be almost as good as a controller. But for the older ones, it's just convenient. But controller is the best. But then the typical fight sticks are pretty ordinary for MKs. They struggle with the diagonal input, like the fight stick I got at home. As per that video I tried, it sucked in MK, but it was pretty good at Tekken, not a single issue there. And but yeah, then the MK arcade machines came out at the time of the arcades. Although they had a joystick, they did pretty well. As seen in that video, they had thinned down that MK arcade stick, that knob of it, so you could hopefully master click-based movements and use it. But I still wouldn't recommend it in a competitive scenario. That in the MK arcade, it was much harder. Like in every match, no matter how well you played, the first part of the match, it took you some time to, get the diagonal input for freezes, like Sub Zero's freeze, for example, right? And stuff like that. But if you're used to it, there are some things that 10% of the time the arcade stick can help you do moves that are not easy to pull off elsewhere. But by and large, it has 60-70% accuracy. So coming back to this video, I'm showing you how tough this was. So I used the range of characters. I was using Sub Zero until now in the champion ladder. Then I shifted to Scorpion to try Cyber Smoke because he was spamming his teleport and spear much quicker than it's possible for you to do humanly. So it's not that cheap. Like, there is a way to beat this AI, and I'm sure that there are people, like, the newer MKs are more based on building your fighting fluency, albeit they don't have the charm and appeal of the original trilogy. These older MKs like 1, 2, 3 and MK Trilogy here, there is, you can't, because the AI was designed to be scalable, like, with its digitized human sprites, and they assume that there is no limit to how good oh wow, man, I finally managed to beat this guy, that there is no limit to how good somebody can be. So it could infinitely scale itself up in difficulty. So beyond a point, you couldn't fight it based on technique like you do for the newer MKs, but there were certain tricks with which you could beat each fight. So I'm sure there are people who have done a fully unbeaten run of Mortal Kombat Trilogy, but they would mostly be on the console or controller, or people who have been playing this on the PC since the 90s. So I was primarily an MK4 player who played a bit of MK3 on the PC, and then in the 2010s I got back to MKs until MK11, and after briefly trying MK1, and despite its graphical superiority, not trying it for the last few weeks, I've been getting back to the retro MKs after I encountered a UMK3 arcade one-up machine in the retro arcade, and I have plenty of videos on that machine and that game and stuff. So then I purchased this MK Trilogy from GOG.com, but I did notice a marked difference between the AI, and I just was really keen to show everybody how tough it is. And I cut out a lot of my losses because the AI went crazy. It kept on doing insane brutalities, fatalities, and whatnot, and I didn't want to show them here. But this is interesting. Now, this is an endurance round. Normally, it's pretty tough. It can take a few, because I'm using this on a modern gaming laptop. It's probably suited to more older ones, although I got this from GOG.com recently, and I'm using my keyboard instead of a gaming keyboard. So it can take a while to do these endurance rounds, but I decided to cheat and take a shortcut by using Motaro. But look at the kind of combos this AI did against even Motaro, because this one advantage of Trilogy is it allows you to fight as the boss characters. Other versions of MK3 don't. So despite the fact that I feel Trilogy has poorer graphics than MK3 and UMK3, I really respect the features in it. Like you can play as the boss characters like I am doing over here, and it has an option of even shutting off its aggressor meter and combos, but I didn't do that. And given it knows that how difficult it is to accurately do combos, and back then they weren't playing that competitively, it even gives you an option of auto combos. But auto combos will work on some characters like Kung Lao, for some they don't. So I didn't switch that on here, because I was originally going to make a video of how you can, use Scorpion Spear on the sub boss Motaro in this game, and because you can't do that in MK3 and UMK3, it's only in MK Trilogy. So, but then by chance it accidentally selected the Champion Tower, so I thought let me try and play through the Champion Tower. That'll be something more interesting to show you. So this endurance I can normally beat with Scorpion. It'll take a few attempts. I can do it the first time in the UMK3 arcade machine, but at home on Trilogy it can take a couple of attempts, but I didn't have time for that, so I decided to just use Motaro to bulldoze through this fight. But the subsequent boss fights after this one I will fight on merit, so you don't get bored in that. So I just use this to bulldoze through the endurance so that's what I liked about Trilogy, that coming back to its additional options, like auto combos, which I didn't use, or shutting off the aggressor meter, or the AI's combos, or letting you play as the boss characters. And it also gave you, and look at how well Nightwolf and that Rain, or whatever, Reptile and now Rain, were playing against this boss character that I'm using, that does much more damage. So the kind of speed they move and the combos they do, I haven't seen the MK3 AI move like that. It would have been very interesting imagine if that in the original arcade machines that they had released this AI, but yeah, they had UMK3 in the arcade, which I think was balanced and much fairer. But yeah, so that was there. And then so coming back to those other features, like this game has, so it's and although its AI is a bit harder up to the endurance round, the boss fights can be a bit easier, in the sense you can use Scorpion Spear on Motaro, which you can't elsewhere. But by and large, even the bosses in this game are pretty hard against most characters, though they're easy on a couple. So that's pretty much there. And this had like all the characters from the first three games and whatnot. But yeah, you do notice a slight difference in the sprites. Or some people, like I'm using the PC version, people say the N64 and SNES or other versions of Trilogy that came out had slight differences. I haven't tested those versions, but yeah, there is. But it certainly has better input than MK3. That although MK3 looks better, some combos look much are easier to input in Trilogy, as easy as they were in the arcade compared to the home port of MK3. So that's pretty much there. But yeah, you see the kind of combos the AI is doing. It's pretty insane. And because what happens in these older games when you use the keyboard is that sometimes it's not just the AI doing well, but even if you're standing at a distance and the AI is moving, sometimes where the AI is moving fast, or an opponent you're playing is moving fast, it slows down your input even when you're not being hit by them as well. Or that's something I used to notice in MK1 and 2 in the 90s, and occasionally even in MKX in the arcade. But if you played it competitively, you'd play on a proper console where that issue would not be there. Or maybe it's just something I feel because nobody else has mentioned this, and I don't think it's a valid technical issue or a known technical fault in the modern games, which are more optimized for competitive play, like from MK10 to MK1 onwards, it's pretty good unless you've got a device error or something. But in these older ones, which were more suited for the arcade or like Trilogy, or which were basically designed to make you repeat fights, it could happen anyway. But yeah, now here in this, once I finish this endurance round, I'll show you the trick for the other one, because there is an insane, there are two endurance rounds in the champion tower of this one trilogy. The first one is normally against three human characters. The next one could be either against Kintaro and Goro, or Kintaro and two human characters. So yeah, here I'm just trying to space this guy to ensure that I don't lose. It's kind of funny, but yeah, so it's pretty much going there, and then yep, yeah, and yeah, and it's this is all a video game. It's a bit cartoony and all that. Yeah, so while there is a bit of blood, I haven't shown the fatalities and the brutalities, and any blood or any joking bones kind of vanish after they come up. So it's more like cartoonic animation, and this is from '96. So for the modern Mortal Kombat ones, I don't often show my fights unless I can ensure there were no X-ray moves or fatalities or crushing blows which have an X-ray component to them, because in those the blood and the bone breaking are a bit more obvious. So, and some of those can get, like a few of my Mortal Kombat 9 videos were pretty clean. I was marked them as not for kids, but it was okay to kind of release them publicly. But one of my reviews of Mortal Kombat 9 from 2011, which had like a lot of blood and some risk costumes and stuff, I put it as R18, though technically I think it's still within community guidelines, but just to be safe. But here I've I didn't show you, although even here the brutalities and fatalities are cartoony and a lot of people show them. I have no comment against that. I'm not saying they're breaching any rules, because I'm not a legal expert, or I haven't had an official chat with YouTube and all. So I'm going based on what I've seen other reviewers do and what I've generically read online, and what my own personal interpretation of the community guidelines is. So I think this is pretty safe that way. But just to be sure, although many others show fatalities and brutalities, I haven't shown those. So the rest, I think, given that this is a 30-year-old game, it's pretty obvious that it's a video game. So it's not like a real fight or something. So yeah. And now this is an interesting one. In this one, the first guy combos pretty hard. Rain, who just died, you got to get close to him to finish him off. And then with Kintaro, there is a technique. You got to back off and get him to come towards you and then punch him. But if you keep on walking towards him and punching him, he gets you. So you got to back out and go towards and punch him. And then, yeah, this guy, Reptile, I repeated this fight a lot of times, although I should have won, because of this guy. Reptile sneaks in and does some crazy combos. So then I eventually got him, but yeah. So that was pretty interesting. And yep, so yeah, so this guy, see, Mac, you don't let him combo, you get a bit close, because if he combos, he does high damage. And then, oh, he came back, and then, yeah, Kintaro. So yeah, you got to back off, let him come towards you, and then hit him, because if you keep on hitting him, he then has got a better combo interruption, and he hits back. So, oh, and there he does that jump. Try and avoid that, but yeah, so that's Kintaro, and yep, and then now we've come to this last guy, Reptile. In this, oh, there he's doing his combos again, and whoa, and yeah, this time I'm going to get this guy. Yeah, I spent a lot of time this morning and I finally got this guy. So then now we move to the final boss fights. Now I could have finished Motaro with Motaro, but I let him die because I wanted to fight the boss fight on merit. And this fight, oh wow, you see Scorpion use the spear here. It's only in Mortal Kombat Trilogy. You can't do that to Motaro in any other version of MK3 or the arcade. Your spears and projectiles go through him, but here you can freeze him, you can fire a fireball on him, and you can use the spear. So I normally defeat Motaro with Kung Lao and his punch combo. It's reasonably easy, though it can take a few attempts. But here, I tried using Scorpion because I wanted to demonstrate his spear, and it took quite a while, because today it seemed to have scaled up in difficulty, that previously when I played the Champion's Tower it wasn't that hard. So here I've lost one. It took me a while, but then I eventually, just as you see in the subsequent attempt, I will beat him. Oh yeah, that's Mortal Kombat Trilogy. So yeah, Yeah, I will beat him here. So, but I did show some of my lost attempts just to show how tough the AI is. But yeah, but if anybody's interested, but there's like some more fights there, the ones which I lost the full video that can show you the extent to which the AI goes. And this is funny. This is an interesting trick here that only works in Mortal Kombat Trilogy, wherein if he's Motaro's in the corner and you stand at a distance and it looks like you're on an exercise program, you just keep on spamming your punches. He keeps on getting hit and he backs off because I was so fed up with how cheap the AI was and how many times I lost. Eventually, I just got frustrated, and by chance, I found this. This doesn't work in Mortal Kombat 3, and it doesn't work in Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 in the arcade, but it works in MK Trilogy. It's hilarious. It looks like you're an exercise program or you're just standing there getting frustrated, throwing punches and whatnot. But yeah, because normally I beat this guy using some beautiful Kung Lao combos that I've shown in my other videos, but today, yeah, I was using Scorpion to show that you can do a spear. And then I just got fed up with the AI, so then I just, this is hilarious. I just stood there and just started punching and whatnot, and then, yeah, he backs off. But yeah, that's quite funny. But yeah, so I just did that. Though this time I think he'll get me, but you have to get him in the corner. And when I finish him in the final round, so I think I'm going to lose this round, and then yeah, I'm going to beat him in the next round. In the final round, you'll see how I use that trick again. That is quite funny. Yeah, he's like, I was like really pissed off with all the number of times I had to repeat this attempt because, to be fair, these older games are more suited to their hardware. But you must comment Geo. Oh, no, here's that trick. It's funny. You must comment GOG.com that in their versions of MK1, 2, and 3, they included a DOS box to help configure it, and their trilogy also runs in some kind of a platform which is pretty easy to configure. That this was the only one from their website wherein it was even easy to configure a game stick or a controller, though I don't use it, though I did test a fight stick, and it was pretty easy to run and configure and scale up to modern technology, like get it to recognize Windows 11 and stuff. So I must commend GOG.com and their research that when they package these. Oh, this is an amazing trick, by the way. This is amazing. This is so funny. Yeah, got him. Yeah, I'm like, I was fed up of all the multiple attempts. Yeah, here, take that. Yeah. Yes, that was quite funny. And now this is a Shao Kahn fight. I normally beat him front up with Liu Kang using that trick in the arcade. In the arcade, it takes multiple attempts, but here, normally in Trilogy, well, his low fireball, Shao Kahn doesn't attack to that. But here, for some reason, I actually lost the match. So I'll show you this match I lost before I show you how I finally beat Shao Kahn. So I've shown it in my separate videos on the arcade. There's this technique wherein if you do the low fireball, he spams his upper shoulder charge, and there's a narrow window between the fireball and his charge finishing that you have to switch to an uppercut. And okay, here it seems like I missed that, but in Trilogy, it's not that easy to uppercut him. You can uppercut him with other characters or in other scenarios in Trilogy, but here it's not that easy to shift between the fireball and the uppercut at home as it is with the faster arcade controls. But it does work in MK3, like I showed you my base MK3 on the PC a week or so back. In that, the same trick works, and you can even charge him and overcut him. And I'm sure you have other ways that a lot of people use smoke and his teleport or other combos, and you can beat him front up. But I normally use this trick, and it helps me beat him for the first time as well. And if you see here, that here, unlike that first random match I lost, or unlike the arcade where it takes multiple attempts, if you do his low fireball in Trilogy, Shao Kahn generally backs off. Though for all other characters in Trilogy, Shao Kahn is at least as tough as he is in UMK3 arcade. But some of his moves, and oh yeah, there we finished him. Some of his moves and his command grabs are a bit different. But yeah, but here we basically just finished him off, and then yeah. So it was a pretty interesting experience on the whole, and great, we won. And then eventually I won a supreme demonstration of all fatalities and finishers in the game as my reward for finishing this. But I've cut that out and may publish that as a separate R18 video. But yeah, but on the whole, it was a pretty interesting but pretty intense experience in this retro game. It was fun. Now it would have been quite a challenge back in the day when it first came out. So great. I'm glad that's done, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And do let me know if you have any comments on this game or others, and if there is any other retro or modern game you'd like to see. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Cheers.